It was a crisp autumn morning in Washington, D.C., and the city was buzzing with anticipation. The 2028 elections were still months away, but politics never slept, especially not at the White House. Karoline Leavitt, now the White House press secretary under President Donald Trump's second term, was running late. Her schedule was packed with briefings, press conferences, and strategic meetings with top officials. But first, she needed her morning coffee. Pulling into a quaint coffee shop in a suburban D.C. neighborhood, she parked her sleek black SUV in a spot just outside. She didn't realize that her vehicle was partially blocking a driveway. It wasn't completely obstructed, there was still space for a car to maneuver out, but the owner of the house, a middle-aged woman named Linda Cartwright, saw things differently. Linda, or as the neighborhood called her, Liberal Karen, was a retired school teacher with an affinity for progressive activism. Her front yard was adorned with signs, "No fascists allowed," "Impeach Trump again," and "Silence is violence." She had spent the last 8 years loathing everything about the Trump administration. When she noticed a government-plated SUV outside her house, her blood pressure spiked. Storming outside in her fuzzy pink robe and slippers, she gasped in horror when she saw the woman stepping out of the vehicle. "Oh, hell no," Linda muttered under her breath, clutching her coffee cup. She had seen Karoline Leavitt on TV dozens of times, defending the very administration she despised. Without hesitation, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a government vehicle blocking my driveway. I need the police here immediately. I feel threatened. The dispatcher, used to handling real emergencies, paused. Ma'am, is your life in danger? Yes. It's a matter of democracy and freedom. This woman is part of the administration that's ruining our country. Meanwhile, Karoline, oblivious to the unfolding drama, had just picked up her coffee. She took a deep breath, savoring the warm aroma before heading back to her car. But just as she was about to unlock the door, she heard a siren. A police cruiser pulled up in front of the house. 2 officers stepped out. "Ma'am," one officer called out to Karoline, hand resting on his belt. "Step away from the vehicle." Karoline blinked in confusion. "Excuse me. That's her," Linda shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at Karoline. "She's illegally blocking my driveway and trespassing on my property." The officers exchanged glances. One of them sighed. "Ma'am, did you call 911 for a parking issue?" "It's not just a parking issue," Linda fumed. "It's a political statement. She's part of his administration and she thinks she can do whatever she wants. Not on my watch." Karoline, still trying to process the absurdity of the situation, shook her head. "Officer, I was just getting coffee. My car isn't even fully blocking the driveway." The officer exhaled through his nose, clearly frustrated. "Ma'am," he said to Linda, "there's no crime here. If she moves her car, this isn't a police matter." "Then I want to press charges for trespassing," Linda insisted. Karoline rubbed her temples. "This is ridiculous. Look, I'll move my car." Just as she stepped forward, something caught her eye. A small, inconspicuous piece of paper fluttered from under Linda's car. It looked like a folded-up document. Curious, Karoline bent down and picked it up. The moment she unfolded it, her eyes widened in shock. It wasn't just some random scrap of paper. It was a classified government document, and it had Linda's name on it. Karoline's fingers tightened around the document as she quickly scanned the contents. At first, she thought it might be some kind of mistake, perhaps a leaked memo or a misplaced briefing note. But as her eyes darted over the words, she felt her stomach drop. The header bore the official seal of the United States Department of Justice. The document was labeled classified, eyes only. And then she saw it. A name she never expected to be linked to a woman like Linda Cartwright, Senator Alan Whitmore. Whitmore was a rising star in progressive politics, a senator from California who had been one of the most vocal opponents of President Trump's administration. He had publicly called Karoline a mouthpiece for fascism during a heated debate just weeks earlier. And yet, this classified document, which had no business being in the hands of a retired school teacher, was directly connected to him. "What the hell is this?" Karoline muttered under her breath. Linda, still ranting to the police officers about government overreach, suddenly noticed the paper in Karoline's hands. Her face paled. "Give that back," she snapped, reaching for it. Karoline yanked it away. "I don't think so." The officers, sensing the shift in energy, glanced at each other. "What's going on here?" one of them asked. "That's my property," Linda shrieked. "She has no right to it." Karoline held up the paper. Officers, this is a classified government document. It shouldn't be here, and I have a very strong feeling this woman isn't supposed to have it. The officers hesitated. They weren't equipped to handle classified materials, but one thing was clear. This situation had escalated beyond a simple parking dispute. Linda's face twisted with fury. You think you can just take that? You people think you own the government, but you don't. This is bigger than you, little girl. Karoline arched an eyebrow. You don't get to call me little girl when you just called the cops over a driveway. One officer pulled out his radio. Dispatch, we have a possible unauthorized possession of classified documents. Requesting immediate federal response. Linda's hands balled into fists. You have no idea what you just stepped into, she whispered, her voice trembling, not with fear, but with anger. Karoline stared at her, taking in the sudden shift in demeanor. This wasn't just some overly dramatic liberal with a vendetta against Trump. This woman was hiding something, and Karoline was going to find out what. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. The police officers, clearly out of their depth, exchanged uneasy glances as the radio crackled with static. Copy that. Federal response team en route. ETA, 5 minutes. Karoline kept her grip tight on the classified document, her heart pounding. What was this paper doing here? And why was Linda Cartwright, the self-proclaimed progressive warrior, so desperate to get it back? Linda, her face a mask of barely controlled rage, took a step closer. Listen to me, Karoline, she hissed, venom dripping from her words. You don't know what you're messing with. That paper? It has nothing to do with you. Hand it over and I'll forget this ever happened. Karoline tilted her head, intrigued. You're making it sound like I should be scared. You should be, Linda spat. This administration, your administration, has no idea how deep this goes. You think you're on the right side of history? You're nothing but a pawn. Before Karoline could respond, the roar of engines filled the air. A convoy of black SUVs with tinted windows sped down the street. The neighbors, who had been watching from their porches, hurried inside. They knew better than to get involved. The vehicles screeched to a halt. Doors flew open and a team of FBI agents in dark suits emerged, moving with military precision. One of them, a tall, broad-shouldered man with steely gray eyes, strode toward the group. His badge glinted in the morning sunlight. Agent Connor Hastings, FBI, he announced, flashing his credentials. His gaze landed on Karoline. You have something that belongs to the federal government? Karoline hesitated. She wasn't one to hand over sensitive information without understanding the full story. That depends, she said cautiously. What exactly is this document, Agent Hastings? Hastings' jaw tightened. That's classified. Karoline narrowed her eyes. Then why does she have it? She jerked her chin toward Linda, who was now visibly sweating. Linda let out a bitter laugh. Oh, this is rich. The Trump White House suddenly cares about national security? Where was this energy when your boss was hoarding documents at Mar-a-Lago? Enough, Hastings cut in sharply. He turned to the officers. Step away. This is a federal matter now. The local cops, more than happy to be relieved of responsibility, nodded and backed off. Hastings turned to Karoline. Hand it over. Now. Karoline hesitated for a split second before extending the document. Hastings took it and flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable. Then something happened that made Karoline's stomach twist. For the first time since the chaos began, she saw fear in Agent Hastings' eyes. His grip tightened on the paper, his gaze darting from Linda to Karoline. Without a word, he pulled out his phone and sent a rapid-fire text. Then he looked up. Ms. Leavitt, he said, his voice dangerously calm. I need you to come with me. Now. Karoline hesitated for a split second before extending the document. Hastings took it and flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable. Then something happened that made Karoline's stomach twist. For the first time since the chaos began, she saw fear in Agent Hastings' eyes. His grip tightened on the paper, his gaze darting from Linda to Karoline. Without a word, he pulled out his phone and sent a rapid-fire text. Then he looked up. Ms. Leavitt, he said, his voice dangerously calm. I need you to come with me. Now. Karoline's heart pounded. Why? Hastings didn't answer. But Linda did. She let out a slow, smug smile. Oh, sweetheart, she purred. You really have no idea what you've stumbled into. And for the first time, Karoline wondered if she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Karoline swallowed the lump forming in her throat. Something was wrong, very wrong. Agent Hastings wasn't just following protocol, he was nervous. And Linda? She had gone from furious to smug. She hated not knowing what was going on. But she had been in politics long enough to recognize when she was being played. I'm not going anywhere until someone explains what the hell is going on, Karoline said, crossing her arms. Agent Hastings didn't blink. Ms. Leavitt, this is a matter of national security. You need to come with us. Now. Linda let out a dry chuckle. National security? That's a good one. You might as well tell her the truth, Agent Hastings. It's not like she can stop it now. Hastings' jaw clenched. Linda, I suggest you keep quiet. Or what? Linda challenged, stepping forward. You'll take me in too? You and I both know that won't happen. I have protection. Karoline felt a chill run down her spine. Protection from who? Linda shot her a pitying look. Oh, honey. If you think Trump is really the one running things, you're more naive than I thought. Karoline's stomach flipped. She had heard conspiracy theories before, wild claims about the deep state, secret power struggles, and backroom deals that controlled the country. But this wasn't some internet crackpot rambling on Twitter. This was a woman who had somehow gotten her hands on a classified government document. And she wasn't scared. Hastings took a step closer to Karoline. You're coming with us. This isn't a request. Karoline's pulse pounded in her ears. She had two options: get in that black SUV and be kept in the dark, or stand her ground and risk whatever fallout was coming. She squared her shoulders. I work for the White House, Agent Hastings. If you're taking me in, I want to speak to Chief of Staff Miller right now. Hastings didn't move. Or better yet, Karoline continued, I can just call the president. Linda smirked. Oh, sweetheart. You really think Donald Trump is going to save you from this? Karoline ignored her, keeping her gaze locked on Hastings. What's it going to be, Agent? A long, tense silence stretched between them. Then, with a sigh, Hastings pulled out his phone and made a call. Sir, we have a problem. For the first time that morning, Karoline felt in control. Until the sound of screeching tires made her turn. Another black SUV had pulled up to the curb, this one different. No government plates. No official markings. The back door flew open and a man in a dark suit stepped out. Karoline didn't recognize him. But the moment Linda saw him, her smug expression dropped. And Karoline knew without a doubt that whoever this man was, he wasn't here to help. The man in the dark suit moved with the kind of confidence that came from knowing he was the most powerful person in the room, even if no one else realized it yet. Agent Hastings stiffened the moment he saw him. Linda, who had been so smug just moments ago, suddenly looked like a deer caught in headlights. Karoline's instincts screamed at her to run, but she held her ground. The man stopped a few feet away, adjusting the cuffs of his suit as he looked at Hastings. Stand down, Agent, he said coolly. Hastings hesitated. Sir, with all due respect, this is... I said stand down. The command was quiet, but it carried the weight of authority. Hastings clenched his jaw but gave a small nod, stepping back. Karoline narrowed her eyes. Who are you? The man finally turned his attention to her. He was older, late 50s, maybe early 60s, but his face was unreadable. Cold. Calculated. The kind of man who had seen things most people couldn't even imagine. My name is not important, he said. What is important is that you hand over that document and forget you ever saw it. Karoline let out a dry laugh. Yeah, that's not happening. The man exhaled through his nose as if mildly annoyed. Ms. Leavitt, let me be clear. You are very out of your depth. This isn't about partisan politics. It's not about your boss. It's not even about you. Karoline crossed her arms. Then what is it about? The man studied her for a moment before glancing at Linda. You really had to get her involved? Linda swallowed hard. I didn't. The man raised a hand, silencing her. I don't care about your excuses. This wasn't supposed to happen. He turned back to Karoline. You've stumbled into something that goes far beyond a simple classified document. That paper was never meant to be found outside of secured channels. Karoline's mind raced. Then why did she have it? She gestured toward Linda. The man's lips pressed into a thin line. Because people like Linda are useful. Linda bristled. I am not. You're a pawn, the man cut in sharply. Just like everyone in this town. Karoline felt a chill run down her spine. What's in the document? She asked, pushing forward. What was so dangerous that you sent an FBI agent to clean it up? The man tilted his head. You already know the answer to that, don't you? Karoline's stomach twisted. Senator Alan Whitmore. The progressive darling of the Democratic Party. The loudest voice against Trump's administration. The man who had built his career on fighting corruption. And yet, his name was tied to a classified government document that had somehow ended up in the hands of a random liberal activist. You've been working in politics long enough to understand how the game is played, the man continued. The people you think are enemies? They're not. The people you think are on your side? They're not. Everyone has a role. Everyone has a price. Karoline shook her head. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're going to get, the man said. Now, I'll ask you one last time, hand over the document and walk away. Forget this ever happened. Karoline glanced at Hastings, whose expression was unreadable. She glanced at Linda, who looked like she wanted to disappear. She looked at the document, still gripped in Hastings' hand. She had a choice. She could push forward, demand answers, expose whatever secret was being hidden. But if this man was telling the truth, she'd be stepping into a game she didn't fully understand. A game where people like her didn't last long. Or she could walk away. Finally, she met the man's gaze. I want to talk to the president. A flicker of amusement crossed his face. You really think he's the one calling the shots? Karoline's blood ran cold. For the first time in her career, she realized she wasn't just a spokesperson for an administration. She was a piece on a chessboard far bigger than she had ever imagined. And she had just made her first move.